Alice had always believed that coffee was more than just a drink. To her, it was comfort, routine, and a small piece of happiness in a cup. She owned a small cafe tucked away on a quiet street corner, the kind of place that regulars discovered once and never wanted to let go of. The shop smelled of roasted beans and warm spices, with shelves of books lining one wall and trays of homemade cakes that Alice baked each morning before sunrise. She loved her work. She loved the rhythm of grinding beans, the steady hiss of the espresso machine, the smiles on people's faces when they took their first sip. She loved knowing her regulars by name, remembering their orders before they even asked. It wasn't just a business. It was her heart. Among her regulars was Polly, a woman roughly Alice's age who came in almost every afternoon with her laptop. Polly always chose the same corner table by the window, ordered a cappuccino and a slice of whatever cake Alice had baked that day, and worked quietly for hours. She was polite, with a warm smile, but never too chatty. Alice admired that, the kind of customer who made the cafe feel alive without demanding too much attention. At first, their exchanges were brief. "Your cappuccino." "Thank you." A smile, a nod, nothing more. But over time, something shifted. Alice began to notice Polly's little habits, the way she tapped her pen against the table when thinking, the way she sometimes mouthed words while typing, the way she always looked out the window for a few seconds before leaving, as though saying goodbye to the day. Alice wasn't sure when the small talk began. Maybe it was the time Polly asked about the lemon drizzle cake, and Alice launched into a short explanation about experimenting with recipes. Maybe it was the day Alice complimented Polly's scarf, and Polly laughed and said it was a gift from her sister. Whatever the moment, little conversations started slipping into their routine, like sugar stirred into coffee. Alice didn't push. She was careful not to bother her customers, especially the ones who came to work. But she found herself enjoying those small chats, looking forward to them. She liked the way Polly's eyes lit up when she laughed, the way her voice softened when she talked about books she loved. Polly, for her part, seemed to enjoy Alice's presence just as much. She started lingering a little longer at the counter, asking Alice how her day was going, complimenting her baking. It was nothing more than friendliness, but it carried a warmth that Alice couldn't ignore. Still, Alice kept her focus on her shop. She had built this place from nothing, and she poured all her energy into it. Romance wasn't something she thought about much anymore. Not because she didn't want it, but because she never let herself look up long enough to notice. Yet, without realizing it, she was noticing Polly. More and more each day. What Alice didn't know was that Polly was noticing her, too. It was a rainy afternoon when things shifted. The cafe was warm, filled with the smell of cinnamon cake and the soft hum of jazz playing in the background. Outside, rain tapped against the windows, blurring the street into watercolor shapes. Polly came in as usual, laptop under her arm, but her expression was different. She looked tense, her smile forced, her shoulders tight. Alice noticed right away. Polly ordered her cappuccino, but barely touched the cake Alice set beside it. She opened her laptop, frowned, and muttered under her breath. Not long after, her phone rang. She answered quickly, her voice low but strained. Alice, wiping down the counter, couldn't help but glance over. She wasn't eavesdropping, but Polly's tone was sharp, defensive, the kind of tone you use when trying not to break. The call ended with a frustrated sigh, and Polly pressed her palms against her eyes. Alice hesitated for a moment, then walked over and set down a fresh slice of cake. "On the house," she said softly. "You look like you need it." Polly let out a shaky laugh. "Thanks. I think I need more than cake, but this helps." Alice slid into the seat across from her. Normally, she wouldn't intrude on a customer's table, but this felt different. Polly looked like she needed someone to sit with her. "You don't have to talk about it," Alice said, "but if you want to—" She left the sentence open. Polly stared at the steam rising from her cup, then sighed. "It's work. My boss is impossible, and I've been working so hard, but it feels like nothing I do is enough. Today, she basically told me if things don't improve, my position might not be safe." Her voice cracked slightly, though she tried to hide it. Alice listened quietly. She wasn't used to hearing Polly like this, stripped of her calm exterior. "That sounds exhausting," Alice said gently, "but for what it's worth, I see how focused you are. You're here every day, working harder than anyone I know. If your boss can't see that, maybe the problem isn't you." Polly blinked at her, as if surprised by the kindness. "You barely know me, and yet that's the nicest thing anyone's said to me all week." Alice smiled. "Maybe I know more than you think. I notice things. That's part of running a cafe." Noticing details from that day on, their conversations grew deeper. Polly began to share little pieces of herself, her love of traveling, her dream of writing a book someday, her complicated relationship with her job. Alice found herself opening up too, talking about the years she had spent saving every penny to open the cafe, the early mornings, the fear that it might fail. The cafe became more than just a workplace for both of them. For Alice, it was her pride and joy. For Polly, it became her safe place, a little corner of the world where she could breathe. And as the weeks passed, it was clear that what they were building wasn't just a friendship. Alice began to notice how Polly's eyes lingered a little longer when they laughed together, how her hand would brush against Alice's when she reached for her coffee. Polly started staying later, even after closing hours, helping Alice stack chairs or wipe down counters. The air between them hummed with something unspoken. One evening, as Alice was locking up, Polly hesitated by the door. "Hey," she said softly, "I was wondering, do you ever do anything outside of this place? Like dinner, maybe?" Alice raised an eyebrow, a smile tugging at her lips. "Are you asking me out, Polly?" Polly flushed but didn't look away. "Maybe I am. Would that be so bad?" Alice's heart raced. She hadn't let herself think about this, not really, but now, faced with the possibility, she realized how much she wanted it. "No," she said, voice warm. "It wouldn't be bad at all." The rain outside had slowed to a drizzle, and for the first time in a long while, Alice felt like something new was beginning, something she hadn't expected but had quietly hoped for. Their first evening out together was simple, but felt like a turning point. Polly suggested a small Italian restaurant not far from the cafe. When Alice arrived, she felt oddly nervous, like a teenager on her first date. Polly was already there, waiting with a glass of wine, looking relaxed, but with the same sparkle in her eyes Alice had come to notice. They ordered food and talked for hours, about everything and nothing. Polly told stories from her travels, like the time she accidentally boarded the wrong train in Italy and ended up in a village she couldn't pronounce. Alice laughed so hard she nearly spilled her drink. In return, Alice confessed how terrified she'd been when she first opened the cafe, afraid no one would show up. "And now it's the place everyone comes back to," Polly said warmly. "You created something that feels like home." Alice blushed at the compliment, though she tried to brush it off. "I just make good coffee." "No," Polly said gently. "You make a space where people feel safe." "That's rarer than you think." As the night wore on, they both realized it didn't feel like two friends catching up. It felt like something more. Alice found herself watching Polly's lips when she spoke. Her smile, the way her hand rested near the wine glass. Polly, in turn, leaned in closer as the hours passed, her eyes lingering in a way that left no doubt of her interest. When they stepped out into the cool night air, neither wanted to say goodbye. They stood under a street lamp, the city quiet around them. "I had a really good time," Polly said softly. "Me too," Alice replied, her heart racing. Polly hesitated, then asked, "Can I walk you home?" Alice nodded. The walk was short, filled with easy conversation and comfortable silences. At Alice's door they lingered again. Alice felt the weight of the moment, the kind of pause that could turn into anything. Polly tilted her head slightly, giving Alice the chance to step closer or step back. Alice chose closer. Their kiss was gentle at first, tentative, but it deepened quickly, carrying all the unspoken feelings of the past weeks. From that night on, things changed, though not in a way that felt rushed. Polly still came to the cafe with her laptop, still ordered her cappuccino and cake, but now there were lingering touches, private smiles, a kind of warmth that spread through the shop whenever they were together. For Alice, it was a strange but wonderful balance, still devoted to her work, but now with someone who understood her passion and wanted to be part of it. Polly, for her part, seemed happier too. Though her job remained stressful, she carried herself differently, as if she no longer bore the weight alone. She often joked that Alice's cafe was better therapy than anything money could buy. Alice would roll her eyes, but secretly love the truth in it. Weeks turned into months, and their connection only grew. They started spending weekends together, exploring new parts of the city, cooking at each other's places, learning the little details that turn affection into love. Alice discovered Polly's habit of humming when she cooked, while Polly learned Alice could never sit through a movie without pausing to analyze the plot. They teased each other, supported each other, and slowly, without either realizing when it happened, their lives began to weave together. One evening, as they closed up the cafe together, Polly leaned against the counter and smiled. "You know, I came here at first just because of the coffee and your cakes." Alice laughed. "Well, that's what I was aiming for." Polly stepped closer. "But then I kept coming back because of you." Alice froze for a second, her chest tightening in the best way. "Polly." "Don't worry," Polly teased. "The coffee is still excellent, but you're the reason this place feels like more than just a cafe." Alice reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. For someone who had always put her work first, it was a revelation, realizing she could have both. She could keep her cafe, her dream, and also let someone in to share her life. It didn't have to be one or the other. By the time they turned off the lights and locked the door that night, Alice felt lighter, as though something she hadn't even known was missing had finally fallen into place. They walked out into the quiet street hand in hand, the glow of the shop fading behind them. Alice had always believed coffee was comfort, a small piece of happiness in a cup. But now she knew there was something richer. With Polly by her side, she'd discovered that sometimes love arrives in the simplest moments, in shared laughter, in a quiet table by the window, in a slice of cake offered on a bad day, a taste of something more.